Okay, Hare Krishna. Today I'm here in Govardhan, so I also have an audience before me. So it's kind of fun speaking to both groups. But we have here in Govardhan, Tota Gopinath, Himalata Radha, Jamuna Pavani, Brajadevi. So, and I guess it's Govardhana-pūjā there, but I know how it is when you're in the West. You may be into Govardhana-pūjā, but no one else in your neighborhood is. But here, this is me speaking on Govardhana-pūjā from Govardhan. And it's intense. Govardhan Hill, I remember once I had this meeting in New York, and I was on the way, I think I was staying way on the upper west side or east side, and then I had to go to the meeting and walk down Fifth Avenue. And it was the day of the Puerto Rican Day Parade, which I'm talking to my audience here. It's packed. There are a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York City, and even people were sitting on the side. You literally could not walk down Fifth Avenue. I mean, there was so many people. Govardhan, the Parikram path is like Fifth Avenue, except it's, chanting and enthusiasm. And here in Govardhan, I talked about the paradox of choice. In the morning, I gave the class at Sri Rupa Seva Kunj. There may have been 150 devotees there. Incredible facility, just where they have their hall where they give lectures. And I've been giving maybe 150 devotees. And then this nice devotee, Paul, the filmmaker, whenever I need a lift, I call him, and he comes from Braj Vasundar. Then getting back on his motorcycle, driving back to my place. It's a 10-minute, but of course this was like Govardhana-pūjā, going against the grain. And then here, Himalata Radha and Tota, and they set up Govardhana-pūjā here of my Govardhan Śrīla. I think we'll give you darshan. And we have our own Abhishek, and then Akinchana Krishna, his wife, Amala Kamala, who's sometimes here from Israel, and her friend Rohini, I know, Yoga Jagadish. And we had a beautiful, beautiful Abhishek. Jamuna Pavani, wasn't that incredibly sweet? And we had a nice little hill with imported sweets. What are those? And they all look like rocks. What are those, the triple, what?
Oh, alfajor.
Alfajor?
Alfajor.
Alfajor?
Alfajor.
Oh, yeah, that was good. And all these people, as they brought me from imported sweets, and I forgot to serve the chocolate truffles, though. Okay. And then after that, I walked over to the Govardhan Retreat Center, which is, has Borijan and Sachinandana Swami. And they have a space right by the side of Govardhan Hill to do Abhishek there with Kirtan. And it's so amazing. for me, going to these things and seeing people I haven't seen for 15, 20 years. But then I decided to walk back here, and the ISKCON Govardhan place, they brought prasad there. And I've been up since midnight, and so I just took a little nap right now before the class. And I'll give the class that I gave there, but more, I'll not only give it, but I'll explain the class I was giving, but I'll give it in a different way. So I'm gonna get out my notes from that class, and see the beautiful setting, and they're very, very together. It's one of the Russian groups I'm kind of very connected to. So, it's so nice, everything, the audio, the translation, the setting, the place itself is so beautiful, the setting. And so, I have good strategy. So my strategy was, I explained to the people it's going to be a difficult class. And the reason why it's going to be a difficult class is because it's a vast subject, but I had commitments here, because we have our own little festival. But I agreed to speak for 15 minutes, and I wound up speaking almost for an hour, for 45 minutes, almost an hour and a half. But I planned that I would only, so I told him I had a short time, and that what I was going to do is I was going to list 6 subjects about Govardhan, and they can choose 2. But this, I was lying. This was, this was just a technique, because I feel like when you speak to an audience, especially it's translated and it's large and variegated, is you first have to get the audience active rather than passive. There was a famous Christian preacher that Rasanath and Raghunath also would study. His name was Andy Stanley, and he wrote this incredible book, very short book called Communications for a Change, where it's basically how to give a sermon. But he explained that if someone gives a boring sermon, it's not that they're advanced in Krishna consciousness, they may not really know how to speak. And he says, when you get an audience, he would say that he divided this thing into 5 categories. First you have to introduce yourself to the audience in relationship to the subject. Then you have to explain to them why it's relevant. Then he said, then God. And God is, in Bhagavad Gita, it says, and all the facts. He says, when you begin with the facts, you don't have the audience engaged. And then it ends with we. What would it look like if we actually did this or followed that particular message? So I didn't use that, etc. But it was very interesting. So now the audience was engaged, and I gave them the 6 subjects. So now they're thinking. And the audience was very excited when I was getting this, and they started calling out which subjects they wanted. I had to stop them after a while. So I said, first, I'm going to tell the story, but from the perspective of the emotions of the people in the story. And then I explained that how bhakti works is we have what's called Rasa Shastra. And Rasa Shastra means that there are certain all-consuming emotions, tragedy, romance, chivalry, etc. But in our tradition, the all-consuming emotion is bhakti rasa. And what Rupa Goswami actually revealed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is that the spiritual world is this drama where bhakti is brought to its height by various emotions. And what Rasa Shastras, any Rasa Shastras, it takes that emotion and it describes it in the perfect way so that the qualified audience feels the exact same thing. So this is one of the ways in which bhakti is developed, by reading the Bhagavatam. That is a description of bhakti, and it parallels the reality of bhakti that exists in the spiritual world, rasa vaisa. And listen, then those emotions come to you. So I felt that I wanted to tell the story. One of the options, I'll tell the story through, explain the feelings that are there. And I explained that how the process of Krishna consciousness generally works is from reading these stories, you get two things, and I've explained this many times. Bhagavat Sarup Gyan, knowledge of the form of God whom you're attached to, which for us is Brajendranandan and Krishna, and Sambandha Vishesh Gyan, knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. And I say initially, it doesn't come necessarily in a specific way. I'm a coward boy, I'm a gopi, but it comes in a general way. I am a Brijbasi. I want to be a Brijbasi. I want to have that mood of Vrindavan. And actually speaking, and I've never heard this, but a friend of mine is a very, I would say, deep Rasika Bhakta. The person who actually gave me, that's what a good friend is, he gave me this ashram that I'm staying in. And now he's going to sell it to me. He probably, for a reasonable price, and give the money to his disciples, because my friend, maybe, he's not very well. He can't come to Vrindavan anymore. But he sometimes sends me text messages. And he explained that there's a level of devotion that's high, that's called transparent, where you may not yet have an understanding of a specific relationship with, but when you hear about Mother Yasoda, you feel, oh, boy, it would be nice to be a parent. When you hear about the friends, oh, it's nice to be a friend of Krishna. When you hear about gopis, it'd be nice to go, you know. Or eventually you can have a specific relationship when your chanting becomes so deep that it goes through Nam, then Rupa, the form, then Guna, the qualities, then the Leela. And in the Leela, your chanting reveals the Leela, which means the associates of Krishna in relationship to Krishna. And at that level of advancement of chanting, then a particular person will really strike your heart. I want to be like that. This is the general process. There's many ways where that feeling could come, even before Nishta, actually. But this is the general thing. So I said, that's the first option. The second option is I would tell the philosophical lessons of Govardhan Leela. The third, I would describe Prabhupada's eternal relationship with Govardhan Hill. Third, I would discuss Srila Prabhupada and Govardhana-pūjā. Fifth, I would explain the Govardhan Tattva, the philosophy of what actually is Govardhan Hill, not just the Leela, but Govardhan Hill's position every day in the Leela. And the sixth is a personal mystical experience that I had. So you can imagine the audience, especially they're Russians, mostly. I think they were all Russians. Well, Israelis, Russians, Russian-speaking people. And you can imagine when I said a personal mystical experience, how much they wanted to hear about that, just by their nature. So then 5 and 6, people were yelling out. And I said, okay, I got a solution. So I'm just saying, you could see how the audience was completely engaged by now, like thinking about, wow, which one I want to hear and things like that. And that makes it easier for a speaker when the audience is so engaged. So I said that I'm going to explain things in this order. First, I'm just going to shortly tell about Śrīla Prabhupada and Govardhana-pūjā. It's a very interesting story. Then I'll tell the Leela, then I'll give the instructions, then the Tattva of Govardhana, and then Śrīla Prabhupada's eternal relationship. And I said there's no time for my mystical personal experience. What?
They were disappointed.
Well, it created such rasa in them. Of course, I was going to give it, but I was going to hold it like a carrot, in front of them, So, and then, because I didn't have time, I can touch on different ones. So first I told Śrīla Prabhupada and Govardhana-pūjā, and it's an incredible story because I'm the only living person that knows this probably. It's a unique Prabhupada. Are there mosquitoes?
No.
Oh, okay, just to keep you up. Okay, smelling salts. Okay. Okay, no, I just, because then I would put in the mosquito thing. And it's a story where I was there and it was like so this already I knew. I'm like a strategist, so I knew this would be completely fascinating. And it was 1976, the first Govardhana-pūjā. I was in Vrindavan. And then I explained to the devotees something. They don't realize how poor we were. There was no congregation. Prabhupada didn't preach to a congregation. There's no such thing as a congregation. He was bringing everybody in the movement. He had 10 years to take over the world. So it was like Cuba, with Castro and, the revolution. You grab everybody, so we were dirt poor. People didn't know how poor we were. There was only one car in all of Vrindavan. And there was one phone that was at the police station. And that phone, if you wanted to call the West, that phone would have to call Mathura. And Mathura would have to call Delhi. And I could swear that the connection between Vrindavan and Mathura was 2 Tropicana orange juice cans with like a metal string. It was like a 1 in a million chance if you had to call like the West, or at Delhi. When direct phone came, and then you'd have to go to one of the shops who had this. There were no cell phones. Cell phones would be like completely like mystical. When I grew up, there was a cartoon about a detective called Dick Tracy. And he had a watch where he could speak, and it seemed so. Now we have it. I was walking with Indradyumna Swami Mahavan. He was like, talking to his watch. We have it. Cell phone. I remember the first devotee that got a cell phone. And Mayapur was like, you can't. We were so poor. There was no filtered water. And the only water in Vrindavan was salty. And that's why everybody was sick. There was no good drinking water. You had to pretend that it was somehow sweet. There's a sweet well someplace. So it was really, and we were dirt poor. So really dirt poor. No one had any money. No such thing as buying a lassi or going, no one had zero money. And you ate the temple prasad and it was that's it. And it was very simple. And that's if you got a good cook. And everything was cooked in peanut oil. And then if you got ghee, that was like a big thing. They used to have to bring ghee from Australia to cook. This is the way it was. So the temple, I always marvel at management, how stupid they can be. Because this happened to me several times where they didn't have money, so there's a big feast, they'd only make 2 preparations. But they'd have to make 5 times as much as each preparation. You don't really save money. But anyway, it was Govardhana-pūjā, and it was like 3-4 preparations. And someone told Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, no, I want every preparation in the Krishna book cooked. And I swear, and I saw it. He sent Pradyumna down to the kitchen with a Bhagavatam. And he sent his personal cook, Palika, down to cook so that Govardhana-pūjā had every preparation. Isn't that an interesting story that no one has ever heard before? This is like, who knows this or remembers this? So, all right, so that was my first thing. So the devotees are already, a Prabhupada story. It was like, yeah. Okay, I start the Leela. Now, what I did actually, if you go to my WhatsApp thing, which I don't really take care of so much, I posted the drama that Alex did. You and Papa, you on my WhatsApp group? No. Okay, I have to send this to you personally. It's amazing. It's such a work of genius, and I really love genius when people really know how to do things. Even like when we do the festival. You see how I am with the serving of the prasadam, right? That I like logos. That there's an order in the world that comes from God, and when that's done, things work so beautifully. That's why with the prasadam, I tell the people how to serve and how we do it. Otherwise, it can be chaos, right? Like people don't know to serve, big plops on things, and people demanding prasadam, and everybody's nervous because it may not get around because it's not organized. They may serve and start at the beginning again and serve again. So he knows the science of drama, and he's such an incredible actor. 5-time nominee for the Helen Hayes Award in Washington for the best actor. He's brilliant. So he came to my Super Soul retreat at my Bhakti immersion at Super Soul, and we flew him in, and he did this drama, and he wrote it there. And then he revised it, and we flew him back for my Vyas Puja, and he did it on the phone speaking. He had notes on his phone. He didn't even have time to memorize it. It was so good. So in the morning, I kind of listened to that again. I woke up at midnight. And then I had previously read the chapters and took a few notes, which were mysteriously lost, but by the mercy of Rati Krishna, he told me I had to go to Finder and go, and then I was able to recover them. And then the main thing was putting this class together. So the story, and from the Bhagavatam and how he told it, it begins with trying to help people understand the emotion of what was going on there. Because we say they're worshiping Indra, but why are they worshiping Indra? And what's the importance of them worshiping Indra? And I'm saying is, you have to understand how much weather is important to people who are farmers. And farmer means either growing vegetables or growing grains for cows or harvesting cows. So water is like so important. And because Nanda Maharaj is cultured, they're grateful and they know where water comes. Anad, Bhavanti, Bhutani, Parjanyad, Anasambhava. All living entities come from food grains. And food grains come from rain, and rain comes from sacrifice. So cultured people, they're grateful and they have sacrifice. So, but who's the sacrifice to? Indra. And who is Indra? Noble Indra, the god of air, the god of heaven, who rides in on an elephant. This is how this Alex was explaining it. It was really great. But who is that Indra? And how do you satisfy such a person? How do you satisfy the man who has everything? He's the God of heaven. He has everything. How do you satisfy him? So there has to be real, it's got to be something. So it's a lavish sacrifice. And who's responsible for it? Nanda Maharaj, like a king, he's responsible for it. So you can imagine Nanda Maharaj organizing this whole sacrifice because they need rain and more rain for the community, and they have to propitiate, they have to satisfy Indra. So it's a huge organization that's going on. And then the thing that I realize now is that Govardhan Leela did not begin in Govardhan. It began in the place where Krishna had just witnessed another sacrifice, the story before it, the wives of the Brahmins delivered. And what was Krishna saying? That people were doing rituals without understanding the purpose of it. And the wives of the Brahmins understood Yajna Vai Vishnu. Ultimately, it comes from God. The purpose of sacrifice is to satisfy God. So if God comes and begs for food, and then you say we're doing the sacrifice, you don't understand what we're talking about. And how the Brahmins, the wives, went to Krishna and, they became so advanced, and the husbands were just like devastated on how sinful they were. And after this, his father is arranging a sacrifice in the same place. The initial sacrifice wasn't at Govardhan Hill. So that scene is there. And then what happens is Krishna comes. And then Alex, he did this really good. He was talking about if you have children, then the main thing they ask is why? Why? In India, they say, don't say why, I'm your father. You can do that in that type of culture. Why you say why? I'm your father. Don't ask why. There's no explanation in these cultures. You don't. So, but somehow Krishna keeps on asking why and why you're doing, and his father's saying it's tradition. And he said, I don't understand why you have to satisfy Indra, because the rain comes at the places in the ocean. They're not performing sacrifice. And then he gave this karma mamamsa. So this class will be a little bit different. Karma mamsa means that you don't have to satisfy God. You just have to do the ritual. And then automatically things will come. So what do we got to worship Indra for? Just do Well, anyway, karma mamamsa. And there was another point, but I'm not going to make it. But anyway, it ultimately came down to Krishna giving all these bogus philosophy. But I was saying, how charming was that? Then I told people, let's say I was sitting on this beautiful like asana. So let's say there was like a beautiful young boy here, just 7 years old, who was beautiful. He had a golden dhoti, and he's charming. And he comes and sits on the seat and starts speaking Mayavadi philosophy from Śrīla Dhanurdhara. Everyone would say, especially the women, "Oh, how cute." How cute. So it didn't matter what Krishna was speaking, right? It's just that he's so cute, he's so charming, that his father had to satisfy him. So even though Krishna preached bogus philosophy, it got his father to do the ultimate aim of all philosophy, which is to worship God. And how do you worship God? By worshiping the Brahmins and the cows in Vrindavan. That's how you worship God. So it's simple. So he got them he said, take this stuff thing. And what do we need that? We worship Govardhana Hill, Govardhana. Like Vardhan is green, Go is the cows, it provides the grasses and everything for the cows. You worship Govardhana Hill and the cows. And then I told spontaneously came to my mind this story of when Dhanurdhara Swami first came to Vrindavan. When Dhanurdhara Swami first came to Vrindavan, after 10 years, the Krishna Balar Mandir wasn't there when he left. So he walked along the Jamuna, and I think he came into the temple, and I was the first person he saw. And he said, "But you want to go on parikram with me or something?" And we didn't do those things in those days. No one, it was so different. No one went on, no one was independent. No one did parikram. We did that, we served there. Parikram was once a year during the Mayapur festival. This is the way it was. So he took me on parikram. He said, "Okay, meet me there," and I did. And we were so poor, we never dimed to ourselves. And all you could get and drink is salty water. The digestion was not really good. The health wasn't good. I don't even think they had screens on the windows for mosquitoes. So you were always exhausted. And when you're very tired, one of the greatest relieves is getting a good pair of shoes. So someone gifted me a pair of Birkenstock shoes, and it was like heaven with arches, So I walked down there with Birkenstock shoes, and Dhanurdhara Swami looks at them and said, "How can you wear those shoes? They're leather." And he said, in Vrindavan, the cows are more dear to Krishna than the Brahmins. And I said, I think they're synthetic. I said, they're synthetic, they're not leather. He said, "But even if they look like leather, what would people think?" I remember I went on parikram with him. I got rid of them, but I got busted in my feet in so many ways for my sin of wearing Birkenstock shoes in Vrindavan. So, by the way, if after this any of you want to go, the people are invited to Dhanurdhara Swami's pandal. Yugala Priti showed me pictures of it. It's like a city. There's more than 10,000 people at the tent, and it's not even full. And Dhanurdhara Swami's a little dot in the distance, and they have the screens, so you can hear his lecture. It's so sophisticated now, if you want to go. So they performed the Govardhana-pūjā, and they circumambulate Govardhana, and Krishna does the first Govardhana parikram, and they're singing and joyful, and then they cook. There's sometimes videos of what Indians can do cooking. I remember when I used to be head of the kitchens in Vrindavan, and we have these huge feasts, and we had a kitchen that just had wood. It was called the Black Hole, and we had to cook for like 1,500 people, like elaborate feast. But we'd hire for the puris some professionals, and they would come 10 minutes before the feast was there. And then you saw these two people. It was unbelievable. They just like, they're just throwing these things in the air and they're flipping them out so everybody gets hot puris. It's unbelievable sometimes. Sometimes you see people go, and I saw they actually done something with like this linoleum type thing where they make like a swimming pool, where they cook like sweet rice and have someone on the shore with a big thing stirring. Indians have this way of, cooking. By the way, at the Prasad, do you have the Prasadam from ISKCON? It was very good, wasn't it? I thought so.
Yeah, I like it.
I got because I came back late and I called Totus, I got it late. They make an incredible Malai paneer sabji, then pumpkin and portal, which is good. The puris were very good. Then I had the tomato chutney and the sweet rice. And I love boiling hot sweet rice. I really like that. Did I miss the pakoras or something? Did they have a savory? Okay. 50% of my life is wasted. Okay. So Krishna assumes a huge form. And from Dangati here, all the way up to Anayur, which means Ana, or I want more grains, that's the Krishna assumed a huge form, said, I am Govardhan Hill. And Prabhupada says in the purport that devotees of Krishna can take little pebbles and worship him as God. But we've made a little stricter as the worldwide movement increases. A little stricter, but not that strict. They have a lot of money. But so that whole thing was filled with prasadam. I mean, there was Brahmins making these puris, mountains of puris and sweets. I don't eat very many sweets at all now, because when you get aware of your health and things like that, and it's not like when I was young. I could still, you lose your taste. But I did eat a lot of sweets today. I did eat a lot of sweets today. But there were mountains of puris, and those little kunds were filled with sweet rice. And Krishna ate everything. And then he said, Anayur, I want more food. And then he was still angry they forgot to give him tulsi. So I told this story. And then Indra's reaction. And what happened, he's furious. And he throws a tantrum. And he orders the clouds of universal destruction. What is that called? Armageddon? Armageddon? What?
Yeah, Armageddon.
How do you say it?
Armageddon.
Yeah, Armageddon. The end of the world. And to destroy Vrindavan. And then somehow Krishna lifts up the hill. So Alex did a very beautiful thing, and after the drama, Satyaraj said, this is Leela Smaran. He asked you to envision it. And people really appreciated this, the sheer noise of that, when Krishna lifts it up the hill. And then he explained very nice that the olfactory, that's the bulb, how you have fragrance, more than any other sense, it's connected to the memory and the emotions. So he said, what does it smell like? What does it smell like? What does it look like? And Krishna lifting up the hill. And then everybody comes onto the hill, and then I described Akhila Rasamrita Murti. That Krishna is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as Akhila Rasamrita Murti, the full embodiment of love in all relationships. And there's two Leelas, Govardhana Leela and Kali Leela, where Krishna is enjoying the love of all the devotees. Because normally there'll be a mix. Like young girls who are in love with a young boy, they can't publicly stare at him, except if the boy becomes a hero. And then it's very natural to look at him and hide why you're looking at him. So all the residents of Vrindavan, and I described Mother Yasoda, she's cooking and she sees that Krishna is her child, because it's a nugraha. The flavor of motherly and fatherly love is called Vatsalya Rasa, is a nugraha, mercy. For that love to flow, you need an object of mercy. God is not an object of mercy. So they have to see him as a child who needs their care. So they're cooking, and the cowherd men are holding up sticks because they're afraid the whole mountain is going to collapse, and they're trying to protect Krishna and the residents. And the friends are seeing the greatest hero, and all this love is flowing forth Krishna for 7 days. Mother Yasoda is feeding him butter. And this whole scene's going on. And then I describe that in Govardhana Leela, there are two of Krishna's qualities that are exhibited, and I don't know any place else. One is bashfulness, one of Krishna's 64 qualities. So Krishna's on the hill, and he's looking down at the gopis, and he becomes, and Radharani becomes bewildered. And first of all, I described, and Alex made this point, it was a great point. There's 110 verses in Govardhana Leela. There's only how many verses describe Krishna lifting up Govardhana Hill? There's only one. He lifted up hill like a small child holds up a mushroom on the pinky of his left hand. There's only one. So we pray to these verses, and the meaning comes much more than what the verse is. So you can actually imagine. But anyway, so Krishna began to shake. So the cowherd men started to freak out that he's going to drop the hill. Balaram, his brother, begins to laugh because he's saying he knows he's God. He's not going to drop this hill. Look, Krishna looks at his brother and thinks that his brother is laughing because he caught him looking at the girls. And you don't want to get caught looking. It's very embarrassing. If a man gets caught looking, it's very embarrassing. So Krishna turns red. The other one I'll explain is as Krishna's gravity. So, just that meditation, imagine what it's like, what the residents are feeling. And the feeling of mercy is such an overwhelming, intimate feeling from someone who gives you mercy and is protecting you beyond your ability to protect yourself. And I described when Krishna went to the shore of the Jamuna. He drank the water, the cowherd boys, they drank the water and they died. And then Krishna in Rasa really thought they died. And he looked at them with compassion. And those feelings, that glance of mercy woke in his friends. So all his friends woke up at the same time and shared this feeling that Krishna saved us. So it was like a shared bliss. So the whole Govardhana is this shared bliss. Krishna is saving us. It's this incredible feeling of shared mercy, without getting too political, taking sides. But when those hostages were released from Gaza, there was that feeling there that, oh my God, joy, people were released, they got saved, and, feeling. So when you share a feeling, it becomes super euphoric. And then Indra, in the hills lift, he sends his lightning spies because he wants to see what he did. Then I made my famous joke, because the story, Krishna gets the name Govinda, one who protects the cows and one who protects the senses. But I told my joke, and I told him it was a joke beforehand, especially it's going to be translated. I said that, when there's terrorism, it's really horrible. And I said, like I was in New York, I was actually in Lower Manhattan when the World Trade Center came down. I could actually see it. And I remember I went to Second Avenue. I was staying between First and Second. And marching down Second Avenue were hundreds and hundreds of people covered with gray ash. And people like seeing their loved ones. It was such a scene. But that was terrorism, destroying the center of the military-industrial complex or something. But it was terrorism. I said, Indra destroyed all of Vrindavan. It's like terrorism on steroids. And I said, and from that day on, Indra got the name Asama Vrindavan. That was my joke. Maybe 50% of the people got it. Sometimes there was another thing. There's only one word that they couldn't translate. I was telling the story about Prabhupada. It had to do with rubber plantations. And there was like they couldn't, I don't know why they couldn't translate rubber. But anyway, Indra is humbled. And then, so Indra goes and he sends his lightning spies, and they return and they say not even an ant or a blade of grass is destroyed on Govardhana Hill. And then Indra realizes, oh my God, I'm worse than Osama bin Laden, because he just tried to destroy the center of the industrial world. I just tried to destroy the center of the spiritual world. And I described, I'm not going to say what happened, but I was on Govardhana Hill, and I went myself, and I went to the Jagannath Mandir, and they gave me a cup of butter and rock candy. And I ate it, but it kind of stays in your throat. So I was walking around, and I spit. And where I spit, I saw it was a sacred place. And I said, oh my God, I committed such an offense. I said, oh my God, I committed such an offense. I didn't mean to. But Indra said, my God, what an offense. I tried to by this clouds of universal destruction. So he went to Lord Brahma. And he said, look, I thought he was an ordinary boy. He was stopping my sacrifice. I got angry. I was trying, what should I do? And Lord Brahma said, well, don't ask me, because last year I made the same mistake. He said, but if you want to pacify Krishna, it says in the Gautamiya Tantra, that Krishna is satisfied by serving the cows, by giving the cows grass or bananas, grass, massaging the cows, or circumambulating the cows. You can satisfy the cows. Is it too warm in here? It's okay. Okay, everybody's okay? Yeah, all right. So anyway, Indra was devastated, and he came with the cow, and then the Ayurvata elephant in the Ganga, and they gave Krishna the bath. But the second quality of Krishna that's highlighted here is when Indra is offering all these prayers, you are this, you are that, you are this, you are that, you are this, you are that. He was looking at Krishna to see if Krishna was pacified. But Krishna was grave. Grave means you don't reveal your mind. So he was freaked out because Krishna, before he forgave me, he didn't understand whether he was doing this or that. Then when Alex in this drama, and I recommend you go on my WhatsApp group and watch the drama. The drama starts from 11 minutes, but before that, he kind of explains what he's going to do. He explained, like, who are you in the Leela? And then he came to that. And I said to the people, I'm Indra. And I see it. What is Indra? You're not being honored enough and you throw a tantrum. You're not respected enough and you throw a tantrum. So I said, we look, but who are we? We're Indra in that Leela. We're the people who want to control, want to enjoy, and when we don't get what we want, we get so upset. We're Indra. So I told the Leela, okay, that took up practically all the time, and I'm conscious that I told you all here that I'd be back at 9:30. So already, it's already like 5 or 10 after 9 practically. So I don't have much time. So then I said the lessons. I said, I'm going to read the lessons and then give one lesson, which I think was the most important. So these are the lessons that I sing. Devotion surpasses ritual. Krishna is the only shelter. He'll protect you. Krishna arranges situations to direct your dependence on him. When you show a power to someone more powerful, you actually become weaker. Like a firefly at night is very bright, but during the day, when it wants to show its brightness to the sun, it becomes weaker. So if you're powerful and you try to challenge someone much more powerful, your power gets diminished. We should not be blind followers of tradition. Spiritual life is very simple. Nanda Keya, Nanda Bayo Jai Kaneya Lalki Hati Dia Gora Dia, or it's very simple. Worship all these elaborate, lavish rituals. Worship Govardhan Hill. So simple. Walk around, right? Jumanapavani in the morning, right? In the West, you're struggling with your rounds. It's hard to read. There's so many things happening. The business happening. You're taking care of your father and so many things, right? Walk around the hill, right? 2.5 hours of sadhana. Even if you're not chanting, it's 2.5 hours of sadhana. It's so simple. Real security is being in the presence of God. For us, it's the holy name. Krishna's forgiveness is immediate when I surrender. And Krishna is the shelter for all our difficulties in life. But what I said to the people is that there's one lesson that unifies everything, and it's exhibited both by the cowherd boys and Indra, is that Krishna arranges situations so that we can become dependent on him. He arranged it for Indra, destroyed his pride. He arranged it for the cowherd boys to increase their shelter on Krishna. So that way I covered the tattva part in just 5 minutes, but people liked it because I did that. Then Govardhan Tattva, I said I'm going to leave that for Mukunda Murari to speak on them, but that's basically, I'll explain Govardhan Tattva through Srila Prabhupada's eternal relationship with Krishna. And I described the story. I described a little bit about Prabhupada's last weeks, where he opened the doors of his room 24 hours a day. Anybody can go in. There's not that many people in the project. And I was so busy from 4 o'clock on, the only time I could come is wake up early before that. And sometimes I would sneak in, but one day Prabhupada said, I want to go to Govardhana, I want to go to Govardhana. They send Trivikram Swami and Lokanath Swami out to get bullock carts. He wanted to go by bullock cart. So I thought this was something that Prabhupada didn't do during his life. He may have explained in Upadeshamrita about Radha Kund, etc., but this personal, specific, spiritual desire, he was very guarded. He would give general, love Krishna and the spiritual world and practice Krishna consciousness, but he wasn't that specific, because if he was, Yad Yarachore Shreshtas Tatareve, common great men do, common men will follow, and they may not be qualified, Sahajiism, etc. We're here now. You're joining the movement when it's Radhe, Radhe. I joined the movement. We didn't go outside of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. There was no Radhe, Radhe. It was just like service to the mission. And but I described that in the Putana Leela, Putana externally, really she was a witch. Externally, she was a nurse that was very beautiful. But when Krishna was sucking out her life, she let go of her facade. And then the commentaries describe this actually a psychological phenomenon, that at the moment of death, someone may tell the truth. I know one devotee, he had no relationship with both his parents at all. I described to him, I said, how come you're not a sociopath or a psychopath? He said, well, my grandmother lived down the block and she loved me. And I said, okay, that's the only reason. And said, but his father at the end expressed some appreciation. He looked on the internet, that is, anyway, his son was famous, but something like this. So at the end, so I said at the end, Prabhupada let down his facade and said, I want to go to Govardhana. And the doctor stopped it because, and I explained that Prabhupada, there was no fat between he hadn't eaten in 6 months, there was no fat between his bones and his nerves. And he said, the bumpy roads, it would kill him. And I said, so years later, here in Govardhana, I was going to the Disappearance Festival, and this saintly lady from ISKCON, famous, Mother Srimati, she's about as advanced as any devotee in the Hare Krishna movement. She's on another platform. In preaching and internal development. And I met her at the gate, and I said, what are you doing here? You're coming from Vrindavan. Prabhupada left the world there. She said, but he eternally resides here. And that's the Govardhana Tattva that we can explain more about. Pramada Mandana Lila Kandare Kandare Te Rachiyatina Vayuna Dwanpanasmina Manda. That in each and every cave there's the amorous leelas of Krishna and the intimate. We can explain about. I don't have time to do this now. Didn't have time to do it then. The Upadeshamrita describing how this place is more dear to Krishna because it's the environment that facilitates the most spontaneous love. It's away from its home. It's his playground. It's his meeting in Radha Kund of secret. So and it's Haridasa Varya. It's the greatest devotee because it gives its whole body. It not only gives its whole body, it gives its whole body in love. And when the Govardhan cries, the water is flowing down. The rivers come. When his hairs stand on end, the grass is feeding the cows. So anyway, so I explained Prabhupada's eternal position. And then I turned to the people and I said, yeah, I just don't have time to tell about my mystical experience.
No.
Exactly what happened, right? Please, Maharaj, please. I had them begging, right? So I was also a master psychological manipulator of the audience. And then I told that story, and it's a true story. I was collecting for the school. There was no money in those days. And I couldn't leave until I gave my treasurer enough money to pay all the bills. And there was no money in ISKCON in those days. People don't realize that. So I went to Mumbai to collect, and I wasn't a good collector. But while I was there was a famous Rasika Bhakta that I knew. And he was going to the hospital. And he's staying in the ISKCON place. So I went to his room, and there was 2 beds. So he was sitting on one bed, we were sitting on the other bed. I was with Giriraj Swami, who was the president. And I said, Rasika, Vaishnavas, they speak in indirect terms because love is best expressed indirectly, not directly. It's a Rasika principle, a spiritual principle for love. So the sadhu sees me and he knows me. He says, what are you doing here? I said, I'm collecting funds. And he says, I have so much faith in Giriraj. And I don't know if he's talking about the mountain or the temple president. He says, I have so much faith. He said, I have so much faith in Giriraj. And he's laughing. And then he says, if you go around Giriraj, he said, and ask him what he wants, he'll fulfill all your desires. He said, all the Brijbasis do this. He said, but better ask for love of Godhead. So I come back and I go to my treasurer, an Indian treasurer, and I said, here's what I collected. He said, we're still 70,000 rupees short. And at that time, it was $2,500. I got so frustrated. I said, I'm just going to go around Govardhana and ask for the money. And then I said, no, better ask for love of Godhead. So it was like here. The winter was freezing. There was no heat and there was no hot water. And I had taken sannyas. That meant 3 showers a day. And the thought in the middle of the day, in the morning, freezing water, the water's in the tanks on the roof. I mean, the drinking water, it was so austere. And I just imagine flying on Pan Am. The airline is now defunct, but that was the main airline. And it stopped in Frankfurt, I think it was Frankfurt. And then there was a temple there. And I remember, going to this nice German room where there's like a hot shower. And I just couldn't wait for that hot shower. And I couldn't go now because it wasn't. So I walk out and another sadhu comes to me, a sannyasi, and he said, this is for you. And he hands me a chunk of $100 notes. I said, I can't accept that. You don't have any money. He said, this is for the school. And I walk in and I start counting it. 1,500, 17, 2,000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2005. This is a true story. And me and my accountant are dancing around the Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. So that was the crux of my lecture. And I like that when I give these festival lectures now, I have notes. They're not specific, notes. It's just the direction where I was going. And I was able to cover all 6 subjects, which was tell the story, tell the lessons, describe Prabhupada's eternal relation with Krishna, describe Śrīla Prabhupada and Govardhana-pūjā, Govardhana-tattva, a little bit about Haridas Varya, and my personal mystical experience. So, because you all stayed back and missed the lecture, because you were setting up the Govardhana-pūjā, it just worked out perfectly, because I just gave the second lecture here. And people really liked the lecture. I wasn't satisfied, but people really liked the lecture. And people really liked the lecture, and but when you give it the second time, it's always better, actually. Because it's the way it is. And yeah, I'm kind of thrown off of my schedule because I crashed out, obviously, in the afternoon. And the diet was completely different. Because we didn't, like yesterday, the last thing I ate, and I really liked it, Jamuna Pavani, that salad with the sauteed paneer and that spinach, everything was like fantastic. And it was really light. I was satisfied. I didn't eat anything. So it was very digested. So by the time our Govardhana-pūjā, I was handing out the sweets, then, I ate some sweets, like one of those chocolate alfajor layered thing, and some of the dulce de leche sweets, and then from Russia, those chocolate things with things in there, and of course we had giri, but still that wasn't a lot. And then I didn't eat till about 2:00, and Tota brought back the 2 sabjis, 3 puris, and the hot sweet rice. But it was what Krishna consciousness is. It was completely, and Tota goes around the whole hill in the morning before everything, it completely absorbing. And the kirtan was fantastic, wasn't it?
Beautiful.
Yeah, what kirtans we had around that hill, just constantly, the chanting. When everybody's completely unified, everybody was completely into it. And that was Amala Kamala, my disciple from Israel for a long, long time. A very fine lady, very fine. She came with her friend who I know also. Of course, I'm close with Jagdish. So it was just complete, absolute absorption. And you feel like the Bob. And therefore I can't shut up. Because I'm still going at a particular pace. But I will be saved by Jamuna Pavani, not Jamuna Jaya. Are you there?
Yes, Raz, I'm here. Oddly enough, I
Okay.
have to go someplace, and I normally ride my bike, but it's a hill, so I'm walking up a hill as I'm listening to you. I just thank you so much, and I will re-look at Alex's wonderful drama. But I'm really just always struck in this Leela, as you say, as God, Krishna keeps making arrangements. He always makes arrangements for us, and if that's where we have to have the faith as the arrangements come again and again and again. And I also love the point of don't show your power to someone that's more powerful than you. That's a really good point. That's really what brings Indra down. So thank
Wow,
you, Rose.
that's great stuff. Thank you. I'm looking at the list now. These are the all-star people who attend. Dan, we inaugurated your Govardhan Hilton sign today. We brought it out. Soon it'll be installed on our luxury suite on the top floor. Hey, Dan. Okay, nice to see you. Okay, Gail, you there?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, you said the original sacrifice didn't happen at Govardhan?
I believe it happened in the village. No, the sacrifice happened in Govardhan, but where Krishna, what Nanda Maharaj was originally organizing wasn't in Govardhan. It was shifted to Govardhan. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You gave another dimension for me to go to that Leela when you talked about the noise that
Well,
Krishna
watch
made.
that. Alex is brilliant. brilliant. He talked about that, the sheer noise and
Oh,
the,
I
and the,
forgot.
and you know, and you were sitting right in the front when the drama was originally spoken.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna
listen,
listen again. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
it's great.
Yeah, I'm
It's
listening
great.
today. I'm listening today to listen
Okay,
to it. Mhm.
okay. Braja and Lal, why don't you say hello?
Hare Krishna
Don't
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Happy Govardhana-pūjā.
don't be shy. There's no
Thank you for
program
class.
trained to Jai Shri Radhes or anything like that for
No,
Govardhan-pūjā?
I don't know. I
yeah,
don't think so.
not at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I was there, we'd have a program for Metro Mantra Sangha, at least maybe the local temples are doing something.
Yeah, I think CNJ is doing something on Sunday that we're gonna try to go to, and Brudge is leaving on Monday to come to India.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean-
like the Himalayas,
Yeah, we're going to Dev Prayag.
okay, you want
First.
Shantras, you want peace.
No.
We're in Vrindavan, we want the torrents of rain of Govardhan. I was walking around Govardhan when I first came, and it was raining outside, and I brought an umbrella, and I thought, you have no faith.
That was
Okay.
so nice. That one yatra that we were doing Govardhan Program and it started raining. It was I remember that really fondly.
Wow.
And last year I was at Govardhan for Govardhana-pūjā. That was amazing to be with you and
Right.
Satyananda Swami did a program. It was great.
Oh my God, this evening Radhanath Swami speaks to like 15,000 people. They have their own thing. There's so
Wow.
many, it's unbelievable around the hill. So many things, so many communities
Yeah.
of Prabhupada Vaishnavas. It's amazing.
Amazing.
Okay. Anybody
Haribol.
else like to say hello? I'm looking at everybody.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Ishwari, you're driving to work, right?
Today I'm driving, yes.
And all the people on the side are, as you're passing, are worshiping Govardhan Hill, right?
Sure. I'll be at the Bhakti Center today, so there is a celebration today at the Bhakti Center. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great. Okay,
Haribol.
okay. Thank you, Ishwari. And you're my representative at the wedding, right?
I will be, yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, you're representing all of us.
Okay, I will. I didn't realize there was so many days of celebration. Thank God I'm going early.
Oh, really? There's many
Yeah.
days?
At least I've been invited to 3 different things. Yeah,
Mehendi party?
yeah. And then there's something else on Saturday, and then Sunday's the wedding.
Okay, well, you have a very important service because you're representing our whole family. That's wonderful. Thank you.
I pray I represent well.
You do. You're wonderful.
Thank
Okay.
you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else?
Good morning,
Hi,
Maharaj.
Krishna
This is
brother.
Wait.
This is Yavat Sundari.
Oh,
Thank you very
Haribo.
much.
Okay, Haribo.
Very
Nice
good.
to
Thank
see
you.
you. Who was that? The other person was speaking?
that was Denny. That was Denny. That was me. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Why don't you say hello, Denny, to all the people here? You go over there.
Hare Krishna. Hello, hello. Hare Krishna.
You're driving
Haribo.
too, Denny?
I just got to work. I was listening to you on the way to work, Maharaj. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You do construction?
No, I actually work at a paper mill.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a
Okay,
supervisor at a paper mill.
Okay.
I've
Thanks
been here for
coming
30 years. 30 years I've worked here.
Wow. Good for
Yeah, a
you.
long time. All right. Thank you, Maharaj.
Steady. Okay. Okay,
Very
good.
bold.
Haribol
Thank you.
Maharaj, thank you so much for class. Wish I was there.
Sri Rupa, are you building a Govardhan Hill in your classroom?
Later on today we are, Maharaj.
What are you doing later on? You going to Bhakti Center?
Kishore and I are trying to get to the Bhakti Center this evening. Haribol. Haribol.
She organizes by Metro Mantra Sanga. Sri Rupa. Okay, great to see you, Sri Rupa. It's interesting though, like here, the whole world stops for Giriraj. You know, it's just wild. I mean, there's so much food. It's unbelievable how much food is being offered to Giriraj. I had everybody take boxes out of here, otherwise I'd have diabetes next week. So they had to take all the sweets out of here and distribute them but Hemalat Dharada still left me enough to fuel my high blood sugar for at least a month. Okay, Haribo. Okay, anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, it's Kishori Radha.
So you're gonna meet Sri Rupa today, try?
Yes, and Mangal Artik, I think.
And you're also in the classroom?
I'm in my office right now.
Okay, say hello to everybody.
Haribol, happy Govardhana-pūjā. Wish I was there.
Okay, anybody else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Okay, that's Kaylee Nakunj. So you know Kaylee Nakunj? Okay, when will we see you, Kaylee?
I hope on Govardhan retreat in January.
That would be very nice. See if you could come, okay? Okay, Haribol, great to see you. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Namaste here.
They can't-
Haribol. Haribol, Haribol. I wish I was there with all of you. Happy.
Narmasaki, these are
Happy
your
New-
closest friends. They love you so much. You know
All
that.
I need is your blessing to come, Guru Maharaj. I'm done everything and I'm waiting for your blessing.
You have my full blessings. Just let me know. We'll pick you up at the airport.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. Haribol.
Okay. Anybody else say hello? Okay. I'm looking at the list.
Maharaj, this is Krishnamrita.
Haribol, nice to-
Congratulations with Govardhana-pūjā. Thank you greatly.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking at the whole list of all the people that are coming, and thank you. And Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu. Hey, Timothy, Haribo.
Haribol. Thank you for class, Maharaj. Happy Govardhana-pūjā.
Say hello to Timothy and.
Haribol.
Okay, Haribo. Vancha Kalpa.